Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining us today as a press conference for elected officials making a unified statement regarding the disturbance of the Caravan for Justice on yesterday that was meant for good in our community, that escalated into violence. And we are here today as city council members and members of our state legislature to say that we can no longer stand on the sideline and look at what's not right in our community, and for individuals to come in our community and be disruptive. And so today, our members are here standing in unity as well as on the Zoom call. And we are really glad that you all are here today. We have on our masks and we are 6 feet apart from each other. What will happen is that each of the individuals that are on the agenda will come and speak from here. I'd like to welcome my colleagues who are here, Councilman Sam Newby, Councilman Gary Dennis, Councilman Brenda Jackson, Councilman Reggie Gaffney, and Councilwoman Joyce Morgan. And we also have our president of the Florida delegation here, Representative Kimberly Daniels. And so we're going to get this started. I'm going to ask our president, Vice President Sam Newby, incoming, to come and do the opening remarks, followed by Mayor Lenny Curry, followed by State Representative Kimberly Daniels, and then we will open it up for at least 2 to 3 of our remaining council members to speak, no more than 2 minutes. And then we will open it up for any questions from the media.
Councilmember Pittman, before we begin, we'd also like to recognize our council members that are present on our Zoom.
Yes, and who are they? Can you let us know who they are on the line, please?
Yes, we have our Council President, Scott Wilson. We have Karen Freeman. I'm trying to see which ones are on Zoom. Councilmember Rory Diamond, Councilmember Ron Salem, Councilmember Randy White, Councilmember Randy DeFore, Councilmember Boylan, Councilmember Matt Carlucci, Councilmember Leanna Cumber, Councilmember Al Ferraro, Councilmember Aaron Bowman.
So I'd like to thank
Councilmember Tom Missouri.
All right, well, thank you. I think we have a full council here, and I appreciate you all being here today in a unified and a solidarity manner. So our first speaker that we will have is incoming Vice President Sam Newby.
Thank you, Councilman Pittman. First of all, before I get started, I want to acknowledge Laura Hershey with the school board and Darryl Woolley also. And one thing I do want to say, I'm really appreciative that all the council members here, either here at the Urban League or on Zoom, hey, we can have a council meeting now because everybody's here. I just want to thank all the elected officials who's here today. Jacksonville, we hear you. We hear your concerns and we hear your voices. We are all going to work together to make Jacksonville a better place, the place that you deserve. And so we're here to say, we hear you and we love you. So thank you. I'm sorry, and our next speaker is going to be Mayor Lenny Curry.
Hello, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Newby. Thank you, Councilperson Jacoby Pittman, for putting this together. Just would like to first acknowledge that the protesters that started yesterday afternoon, the organizers, they were peaceful. There were families out there. There were kids out there, all different backgrounds, making their voices heard in a peaceful yet effective way. And I don't want what happened later to overshadow the best of Jacksonville. And that's what we saw yesterday as the protest started. As the evening wore on and most of those 1,000+ people went home, a smaller group of folks stayed, and I'm told some others came in and were perpetrating violence, vandalism, etc. And we just won't, that's not going to be allowed in our city. And I'm grateful for all of us working together to make sure that we don't let a few become the image of Jacksonville, because that's not who we are. So glad to be here with all of you as one voice as we work through the issues that we are dealing with in Jacksonville. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Daniels. You can begin your.
Thank you. As I stand here in solidarity with my colleagues, I think it's very important to note that I am the mother of a Black son who was recently brutalized by police, and it wasn't in Jacksonville, Florida. My 22-year-old son was maced, handcuffed, stuck in the back of a squad car where he couldn't breathe because he had asthma, and was wrongfully arrested on his birthday. I'm also the mother of a 41-year-old son who was pulled over, searched, and treated wrongfully on his birthday. So I want to be very clear and make my statement with no apology. Public health and safety is a core function of government. We are gathered here today because it has not been safe for Black people in our cities. And to the peaceful protesters, we hear you, we feel you, and we will not ignore you. But you need to know that there is a difference in protesting and rioting. There is time for change. Systemic racism is a reality, but violence is not the way to deal with it. There is a saying, be angry and sin not. I cannot explain to you the night my son got arrested, what it felt like. And I can't imagine this at the ultimate worst. And I want to just give my condolences to George Floyd's family and his loved ones. We can be angry, and rightfully so, but wrong cannot be made right with more wrong. My mom used to say, 2 rights don't make a wrong. Looting is wrong. Destruction of property is wrong. Physical harm to police officers in retaliation is wrong. Our city streets cannot become places of anarchy. I am angry. We can be angry. Protesting is our right, but violence violates everything we're fighting for. So I want to say no more violence, no more destruction, and no more bloodshed. Thank you.
Representative Daniels, we thank you and all of the individuals that was on the agenda. I do have other council members that would like to make a statement, no more than 2 minutes. I'm asking for 3 of the colleagues who are here to come make a statement, and then we will open it up for the media if they have any questions.
Councilmember Pittman, we also have our council members on Zoom that may have comments that they would like to make. And I did recognize Councilmember Ferraro had his hand up. I'm not sure.
Okay, we can wait. We have 3.
And Councilmember, I'm not sure if Councilmember Hazuri wanted to say anything or not.
Okay.
Yes, his hand is up. Yes, it is.
We have Councilmember Jackson, Priestley Jackson, who's here, and Dennis, as well as Morgan and Gaffney. Sure. Are we ready?
My late father, Frank B. Priest, would often say, "It is what it is," in response to a situation that was readily apparent, but often denied because we didn't want to accept it or wished it weren't so. In Jacksonville, we are at our "it is what it is" moment, the moment that we must reconcile the inequities and lack of meaningful opportunities that challenge many of our neighbors, especially those of us who are the darker sisters and brothers, members of the African American community. We are a city not only separated by 7 bridges, but also separated by broken roads to high quality education, economic opportunities, jobs, healthcare, and policing. These are facts. As the city with the largest percentage of African Americans in the state of Florida, it is inequitable that opportunities don't extend to all parts of our city and each neighborhood the same. We know that we have inadequate infrastructure in many of our schools, and in that way, that were attended by African American students. That's a legacy of Brown. We know that areas of our most challenging sections of town lack economic development, business, and culture for the community to strive. I specifically call attention to Sewtail Road and our plans to implement a calming plan to foster pedestrian safety, economic development, and business. We know that many of our essential workers and those who lost work are our service sector employees who were challenged to work during the pandemic in less than optimal conditions, and many who lost work were unable to timely get reemployment, unemployment checks. Tell me how our reemployment fund grew in value while folks waited to get reemployment checks, and many are still waiting. And we are a city that has evidence of hyper-policing of African-American communities, but inadequate responses to civilian inquiries regarding body cameras, use of force, and other issues that must be answered to foster trust between CESO and our Jacksonville neighbors. Yesterday, we saw many millennials and Gen Z of diverse ethno-racial persuasions join the Northside Coalition and Ben Frazier to address these issues, and they peacefully assembled. However, hours later, it turned riotous. People fight injustice and oppression with the tools at their disposal. It's often incoherent, chaotic, and abrupt. They want life, liberty, and equality. Many of our integration babies that we saw yesterday are tired of waiting for justice to come by and by, watching suffering and unfairness. They want it now. They demand it now. We reared them this way, so we must together dismantle structural and systemic barriers, uncoded racism and oppression, which continue to deny opportunities, harm, and kill. The time is now. They won't wait. The future is now. It is what it is, Jacksonville.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being here today, and thank you to the Jacksonville Urban League for allowing us to use your space today. As been said, enough is enough. It is time for solutions, and it's time for a call to action. There is so much concern in our community about what happened yesterday. Yesterday is yesterday, today is today, and tomorrow is tomorrow. What happens now? What happens next? What is the call to action? How do we come together so that there is a level of trust, accountability, and transparency in what we do with our citizens? I had an opportunity today to talk to the mayor's office, and one of the things that I suggested is that the Crime and Safety Task Force get back to work. We're at a crossroads where their work is more important than it has been ever before. If you saw the rioting, if you saw the protests that are going on, not just in Jacksonville, not just in Minnesota, but across the world, then we all know that enough is enough. The time is now. There is no more waiting. I too have an African-American son, 23 years old, who does love to work out, but now he doesn't want to go running by himself in our neighborhood that many consider pretty safe. He wants to be sure
that he has somebody with him. So I ride my bicycle. But why should this young man or any young man have to fear that someone might see them and say, oh, he's not just running, there's more to it. Why must our young people be questioned? The time is now. This is the call to action. We can do this, Jacksonville. We have an opportunity to get it right now if we take the action. So I am urging my mayor, our city council, our sheriff's department to put it together, get it together, but let's do it now. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I stand here in solidarity with the other elected officials demanding the riots, the looting, and vandalism to stop in our city. But let's be honest, what we're seeing in our city and in this country has been festering for years. We have not been hearing the concerns and cries of our people. And what we are seeing is a direct result of our shared neglect. You know, I get sick to my stomach every time I see the image of George Floyd's lifeless body pinned under the officer's knee. It isn't enough for us to stand around or sit around here without talking about what we are going to do moving forward for our city. We have the ability to make policy changes to ensure a better quality of life for our neighbors. We are dealing with a pandemic that has disproportionately affected the minority community, and we, the city council, appropriated $35 million for testing, and there is one symbolic testing site in the minority community with no plans to do more. We're the blame for that. We had a bill before City Council to change the policy on how JSO handles individuals caught with small amounts of marijuana that disproportionately put minorities in jail with no record. That leads to other issues such as job loss, incarceration, license being suspended. We did that. We are the blame. The city of Jacksonville procures over $300 million in goods and services each and every year. And there is no mandate for small and emerging businesses. We are the blame. We appropriate almost a half of the city's budget to public safety, close to $500 million. And crime is at an all-time high. And we aren't holding our sheriff accountable for the dollars we appropriate to the sheriff's office. Guess what? We are the blame. Contrary to the hollow words of some elected officials saying your voices are being heard, let's be honest, they are not. We used to have 2 periods of public comment at city council meetings, but we changed the rule because we didn't want to hear the complaints, the concerns, the daily issues from our citizens, and it was wrong. Guess what? We are the blame for it. We have much work to do, and I encourage every citizen in Jacksonville to hold each and every one of the elected officials accountable. Again, I stand in solidarity here with the other elected officials for the love of our city. Thank you.
Brown, I understand we have some of our colleagues. We're going to take 2 more statements. If you could open up the Zoom call for that, please.
Yes, we have Council President Designate Tommy Missouri.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And thank you, Council Vice President-elect as well. As a Council President-elect, I feel like it's incumbent on me to address what I feel needs to be done and when it will be done. I respect everyone's right to have peaceful protests. That's what our democracy is all about. But our democracy is not about violence and destruction. I have a greater faith in our city and its future by addressing the issues that makes our city, the one Jacksonville that every community wants for themselves and their families. Our city council is listening. During our administration, my one term as president, we're going to address those injustices that we hear about year in and year out. We're going to address those issues or those promises or those unfulfilled promises that were made when consolidation was born. Social justice has always been a part of my agenda throughout my public career, whether it's the ERA, sexual trafficking, the Human Rights Ordinance. Social injustice will also be addressed during our administration and by our city council. We are going to embrace that issue. We will address that issue, and we will resolve many of those issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Missouri.
Do we have any other council members that would like to speak? Councilmember Al Ferraro.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Pittman and State Representative Daniels. I don't want to make this meeting sound like it's just has to black on black crimes. We've had an enormous amount of problems with all the things that we've heard on the protesters. Jacoby and Ms. Daniels and I have worked in the community, and we will constantly work. But this shouldn't be something that we're trying to blame the city council and elected representatives right now in our city for problems that are happening around the nation. We do have problems, and we do have to work at this together. And we do want to solve the problems that we have. But I want to make no mistake that when somebody disagrees with something that's happening, it is their absolute right, and it is our job to protect them and make sure that they have every opportunity to do that. And it's our jobs to fix it. But once that line's crossed and we have people destroying other people's property or putting them in danger, it changes the whole thing. So I stand 100% with you on trying to see what we can do to fix things. But we cannot stand for our city or any of the people to be frightened or endangered because of somebody disagreeing it. We have to work together on this thing. And there's more to it than just one thing. And this didn't happen right away. This is something that government's not the only cure. We need to make sure that we have family members that are rearing their children up and teaching them different things to where we don't get into the situation. So I hope our faith-based leaders and our churches and things step in and try to help us with this as well. Thank you for inviting us to this meeting, and I really appreciate working with you all.
Councilmember Matt Carlucci.
Thank you, Jacoby. I want to really thank you for taking the lead in putting this meeting together. We're all unified, as you said, to solve this problem. I think incoming Council President Missouri and incoming Vice President Sam Newby have got a big charge in front of them, and I know that we'll lock arms with them and walk hand in hand. But we have to communicate with our community. This community's got to communicate with one another, and it can't just be the usual suspects that sit around. We got to reach deep. We got to talk to people, and when police brutality like this happens in one place, it causes problems just like what we had everywhere. And so, in addition to talking to everybody and reaching deep in those conversations and being truthful and honest, we have actions that we have to do on the council this coming year when it comes to infrastructure, our schools. You know, before 1970, a lot of schools weren't built the same. because that was before desegregation. So we got a lot of catching up to do with the schools. So I just want to say to Councilmember Jacoby Pittman, to our incoming leadership, that I am dedicated to doing my part in addressing each and every one of those issues. And may God bless the great city of Jacksonville tonight, keep our community safe, and tomorrow, and hopefully we can move on and do what the good Lord Almighty wants us to do, and that is come together as a community. Thank you.